I think
Okay,
I'm
is it
live.
working? No, still not.
I'm live. I'd like to introduce Eli.
Thanks. So, yes, Ken would like to introduce me so that I can introduce all of you to Ken with Mithun. Ken is the senior project manager with Mithun Architects, and today's presentation is to discuss the sustainability features of the West Tower project, as well as some biophilic design, which Ken will explain what that word means. And
I'll do my best
yeah.
to explain it. Yeah.
Yes. So without further ado, Ken Boyd.
Thanks, Eli.
You're welcome.
Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. A glorious afternoon today. As Eli mentioned, I'm the manager, the senior project manager for the Mithun team. But what I wanted to say is that the Mithun team actually includes landscape architecture, and interiors. So all of the stuff we're talking about today, we actually have a hand in designing all of those aspects. So just wanted to share that just to make sure. I'm going to do my best to represent all of them, but I may screw up somewhere. I've shared this slide many times with people in terms of our presentations. We always want to start with what our goals were for the project from the get-go. After meeting with you all and Horizon House, we developed these goals to basically maximize the outdoor space, maximize our amenities and the meeting rooms, provide a secure access to Freeway Park, improve the internal connections of the campus itself, enhance the Monday market, and then finally explore sustainability strategies and lower the carbon footprint. Well, today we're going to be talking about that last bullet item. So, and what we're going to focus on is biophilia and sustainability. They go hand in hand, but they are a little bit different. So I'm going to explain a little bit more about each of them and give you examples in the project of how we're applying these. So biophilia is more of a qualitative design approach, right? It is talking about fostering a sense of a connection with nature. We're super lucky here in that we have Freeway Park as our neighbor, and we have this sort of oasis, this natural oasis within downtown Seattle here. And we're very lucky that we have that right off the bat. So we have an automatic connection. So it's kind of like, well, we got that one nailed, right? And but we just want to enhance that, make sure we're paying attention to that. Whereas sustainability is quantitative, at least in the way we're looking at it, so that it's a way that we can measure that we're doing things in a sustainable way. We can measure it. We're making sure we're making decisions, operational decisions, and optimizing our environmental, economic, and social impact scenarios. So those are the two categories, but we're going to start with biophilic design. And I'm going to try to explain, as Eli mentioned, what does that mean? Okay. Common biophilic design strategies include direct experience of nature. In other words, taking a walk in the park or woods, or enjoying plant life, either indoors or outdoor. The indirect experience of nature, like enjoying the textures of materials, of wood, the forms that you see in nature and seeing those, or even images or sounds of nature. You know, many people like loving fountains and things like that. And then there's the spatial and or sensory qualities of nature. Primarily one that we like to use is light, natural light. The connection to natural light, super important to all of us in the Pacific Northwest, I know, because we lack some of that in the wintertime. So having that experience, we know we love our big windows, but also that variation in light, knowing what time of day it is, having the variation of light in terms of the modeled light through trees, or even the different cloud covers that we have. It's really a dynamic a sense that you're alive and you're connected with nature. So all of these things create a benefit to our health and well-being in terms of reducing our stress, improving our cognitive functions and our focus, and boosting our moods and maybe even creativity. So we look towards this one source that, if I can read it right again, Terrapin Bright Green, is this source where they've actually developed these 14 patterns of biophilic design. I'm not going to explain what all 14 of these patterns are, but the general categories are color-coded for all of us. Whereas on the right, there are 7 of these categories that are in gray to the right, which is talking about nature in space. And that's about that direct connection with nature that we were talking about before. The blue ones on the bottom left, the 3 bottom left ones, are about natural analogs, which is like the patterning that we're talking about, or the different types of materiality that you connect with. And then the 4 orangey yellow ones up on the upper left are about the nature of the space, right? And so I'm going to actually use a couple of examples from the project of how we're applying these patterns of biophilic design to the design of the West Tower. I'm mostly going to be talking about most of the amenity spaces, touching a little bit about the units themselves, but mostly about the spaces that we all get to share and enjoy. So we're going to start with the nature in the space. And the first category, I forgot. I just wanted to orient us. I think a lot of us have seen this diagram. This is the campus looking as the crow flies towards the southeast, and basically below us is the Freeway Park, and the west towers to the right and the north towers to the left. And you see the new terraces that we're building over the top of the garage, including Parkview Terrace is being extended and wrapping around the existing dining facility on the first floor that you see there. And we're going to be looking at a lot of the stuff that's down on the level 1, B1, and B2, which are these terraces and some of the indoor spaces immediately adjacent to it. And don't forget about, at the very top of the tower, we also have amenity space up there, which includes some dining space, lounge space, and some meeting rooms up there that we'll also peek at. So, like I mentioned before, our visual connection with nature, we have it in spades because we're right next to Freeway Park. The image to the right is actually an image of walking up the Piggott Corridor ramp towards the West Tower, and what you're seeing right there immediately in front of you of part of the tower is the purple hydrangeas that somebody is growing in their garden plot. It's the resident garden plots are right there overlooking that. And that glass that you see immediately behind that is a space that I'll show you a picture of later, the garden lounge, which is actually some place where everybody can sit inside and actually enjoy the park itself, and I'll show you that in a second. The image on the upper left is actually not unlike what you have today, Parkview Terrace, and it's as if you were sitting on Parkview Terrace and looking towards downtown. You're seeing 2 Union there and 1 and 2 Union towers there. What's different about what we're proposing is that terrace actually will continue and give you even more terrace, of which you'll see an image later. But you have that same connection to the park, to the trees of the park beyond, and the views in both to and from. Another pattern is the non-visual connection with nature, and that is the your sound, scent, touch, maybe even taste. If somebody's growing vegetables, maybe you might want to taste them. Other plants you may not want to taste. Who knows? Okay, but it's integrating the natural elements into our daily life. And so the access to the terraces in the new design has actually been something we've been trying to pay a lot of attention to. And we've increased the square footage of the outdoor terraces in this new design of what you have today, but also we've made that access a lot easier too. So even though I think some people really do like the secret garden because it's a secret garden, right? But I'm not sure anybody really likes how you get to the secret garden, right? So, but there's not going to be a secret garden anymore. It's actually going to be right there front and center. The image to the right that you see here is actually the garden plots for the resident gardens. So they're going to be right there on the main terrace at the B2 level, right at the base of the new tower. And they're situated around the base of the tower on the south and southwest side of it, so it actually to help maximize the amount of solar access for people growing their plants, as well as being right around that garden lounge to maximize the ability for you to share what you're growing with the rest of your community. And those your sunny Mondays are going to be awesome because you have this great space. So the image on the upper left is actually the level 1 terrace, which is a brand new terrace that you don't have today. And this will be right off of the dining room. In fact, this image that you see would be as if you were sitting in the dining room itself here in the terrace dining room and looking out the window. This is what you would see. So you would see some plants and planters. In fact, the hydrangeas in front, we're actually preserving the hydrangeas. That's what you see right in the foreground there. And there's actually a contemplative labyrinth that's imprinted on the paving on the outside, so a little bit more of a quiet space out there. And then beyond that is actually a little area. I think I have another photo where you can sit and overlook the terrace and see the park beyond. So going there, hearing the sounds and smells of and maybe tasting the hydrangeas. I don't know if are they poisonous? I don't know. Maybe. And finally, a little bit of the inside and our connections there. I mentioned we were talking about the dynamic and the diffuse light. I mentioned the garden lounge space, which is the image to the right. And so this is the space that is right out there at the base of the tower, poking out there towards the park, surrounded by these garden plots. And actually you can see there's actually some plants on the inside as well. So we actually have surrounded the seating with some plants on the inside. So you're basically surrounded by nature in this space. We wanted to give it a two stories glass, so you had just not lots of natural light, but also you feel like you're in the tree canopy because you get to enjoy the full height of the trees of the park when you're in there. So this, I hope, is going to be one of your favorite spaces to go to. The image on the upper left is actually the what we're calling the Sunrise Lounge, which is actually on the B1 level. So we're on level 1 here. If you went through the dining room into the west tower, you would basically drop down 1 level and you'd be on this level. And this is what connects to the Parkview Terrace to the right. You can maybe see the light to the right of the stair there. And then to the left are those doors that go out to what we call the Sunrise Terrace. So what's cool about this space is that you have light coming from all sorts of different directions. So you'll have the morning light coming in on that door to the left. In the evening, you'd have evening light coming through the light to the windows to the right. You also have light flowing in from above. So there's a really cool, light play going on in this space. And this is the space also that has that stair that you see that has an opening that connects all 3 levels, level 1, level B1, and B2, which are all the main amenity spaces that you have for the whole entire campus. Down on level B2 will be the flexible event space, which is the image that we have down on the bottom. And again, even though it's not unlike this space, except a little bit bigger, and even when we designed this space, we wanted to make sure, hey, there's natural light that comes in, and it's being filtered through this, the really cool screen over here. We wanted to capture a little bit of the same with this space here, so we actually have the clear story lights above that are actually would be behind, and if you were sitting here like this in this space, those clear story lights would be behind you, so you'd be getting filtered light coming in from behind. And then also in an event where you could open up the space like you have here, it's opened up and actually connects to the terraces too. So even in an event where you can open things up, you can be connected to nature even though you're inside this event space. And finally, the natural analogs, like we said. I'll go through this. The forms and the patterns. So I'm up on level 2 on the right image of the north tower, sort of looking down over maybe just above where we are, just up there, looking down on Parkview Terrace. And you can see Parkview Terrace is extending out towards the park, so we're getting ourselves even closer to the park. But also you're seeing some of these curvilinear forms that we're introducing in the landscape. And these curvilinear forms are part of that biophilic design, gives you that little connection with nature. And it's nice for anybody living above, too, looking down and seeing those same forms and really having that same response. So, and then the materials themselves, right? The materials that, some of the materials that we're choosing also have things like the leaf mimicry in or the modeling of light in the surface of the paneling that we're putting in front of the lounge, or the glazed tile brick, which is actually purposely we picked a green color to sort of go because we're adjacent to the park, but also it has it's glazed, and so it modulates light slightly different. It's like the way leaves, when leaves actually flow in the wind, they change colors, the underside of a leaf and all that kind of stuff. So it's actually sort of mimics nature in a way, which is really purposeful why we picked this green. And we think it's going to be a really fantastic addition to the top of Piggott Corridor and the end of University Street. And then the materials themselves. Again, we're lucky. We live in the Pacific Northwest, and we love our wood. And Mithun loves our wood as well. So almost every project we do, we have to somehow celebrate it. We're using it a lot in where we have special moments, special spaces, and sometimes in ceilings. So even in I'm using the picture on the bottom left again of the garden lounge. The garden lounge itself also has some wood paneling, some wood slat ceiling and walls, just to bring in that wood a little bit. And then again, the 33rd floor lounge space that you're seeing on the bottom right also has the same or slightly different wood slat ceiling, again, to sort of bring back that ethereal nature feeling. And then the material palette itself that you're seeing on the upper right, actually sort of, it's a relatively calming palette, but it's warm. It's again has colors of nature in it, those greens, the tans of wood and that stuff. But then what we know is that this palette is the materials of the building. Then we know that once the furniture and the art start to come in, that life actually will start to play off of it, and it'll be really fantastic. Finally, the nature of space. And the first one I'll talk about is prospect. and I think we've all experienced it, where you just think it's the idea of this special spot where you go and you just see this fantastic view, right? We imagine the 33rd floor of the tower is going to be one of those. This is a picture as if you were a pigeon or a crow flying by, getting that same view of the sunset of the Olympics over Elliott Bay between the towers. That's going to be pretty exciting. That's going to be a cool spot. Even say in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, go up there, and there's a couple of small terraces up there. Just a little secret I'll tell you, that you can go maybe sneak a coffee and go up there and see the sunrise too. Or, like we talked about, the Parkview Terrace itself, being able to find little nooks and crannies to benches that we're putting out there to basically sit out there in nature or watching the birds and the pollinators that we have. So all of the plant life that we are proposing is going to be pollinator friendly. It's native plants, drought tolerant, and so it should be very, very conducive to being at one with our natural environment, and not have to be overly curated, I guess would be a way to put it. The other is refuge, and here's a couple of new images, hot off the presses. I mean that because we've actually, like, the top image, we literally just redrew this last week. So anyway, this is the top image is the Loggia Lounge on level B2, next to the flexible event space. To the left, which is not showing, is to the left is the windows that are actually going out towards the garden terrace, and there's no plants out there, but that actually should be fairly green actually through those windows on the outside. But since this is a new image, we didn't get all that done yet. But the idea is that refuge is a spot where you can actually sort of, maybe be a part of something but still enjoy it. So you can maybe be a part of nature and enjoy it, but not be like totally inundated in it. So we're sort of like, or we always talk about like people watching, right? Same sort of thing, where you like to sit and watch things happen and really just sort of, recenter yourself and that kind of thing. So there are spots like that all over the new design. This happens to be one where you could find a nice little nook and sit down and still be right inside, right inside looking out windows. Or, like I mentioned before, the image below, which is that labyrinth, the dining hall is just to the right there, the labyrinth there, and then there's some small tables and chairs just on the outside of that. That could be both a refuge and a prospect, because that actually overlooks the B2 terrace and over to the Freeway Park. So some pretty special little moments dotting around the campus in spots. And I don't have an image of the Sunrise Terrace, but we kind of have the same issue there, where you actually have some little small moments, some tables and chairs on the Sunrise Terrace that overlook Piggott Corridor. So you'd have, so you can actually be within the trees on that side, and like we call it Sunrise Terrace. Maybe in the morning, that'd be a fantastic place to go enjoy the sun coming in. So that, I believe, is my lecture on biophilia. But I'm wondering if anybody has any questions about biophilia?
Thank you very much. I don't need a mic.
Oh,
Well, I
Roger,
wanted to
second.
ask a question.
I need a mic. Okay, go ahead.
I noticed in the space on the inside, I don't remember the name of it, but it's an open space like a lounge downstairs. You show these large gray columns and it's labeled polished cement,
Polished concrete, yes.
polished
Yes,
concrete,
yes.
yes. And what strikes me about that is you have this beautiful space, which looks really lovely, but you've got these gray columns that dominate everything.
Mm.
They're huge. And it's like this gorgeous day with sunlight, but you've brought the clouds in anyway, 12 months out of a year. And my question is, would you be willing to find a way to face those columns with something that is more friendly than the imposing cloudy day look that they give off in the picture?
Well, I'd imagine that we are, that the art committee, for instance, will certainly want to take advantage of those type of surfaces for art. Yeah.
Okay, Roger.
Oh, is there anybody here from the art committee? Would you like to speak to that and give a more, no? Okay.
Could I ask a follow-up on that? Are you saying, Eli, that you've designed those that way so people can put art on them?
No,
Is
they're
that
not
purposeful?
designed for that purpose, but when
You're
you ask the
speculating.
question,
You're speculating.
I'm speculating.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think it's a good question for the art committee. Yeah.
No one.
Okay, my turn, Ken?
Well, I'm just going to, Roger,
Okay.
can I address the
Please,
concrete?
why don't
thing?
you address the
We
concrete?
actually, architects love concrete, I know, and that's what you're reacting to, Sam. But I think that what we like about it is that it has the contrast, right, between the greens and the wood, that you have that contrast, right? And what's not showing up in this image is this these columns are actually the columns that are actually holding up the entire tower, right? And so there's actually a few of these. So there's something, and I think it actually shows up better in this other image. Hold on one second. It's the same columns that you see in the image to the right that are holding up the columns. And so that's the, I'm going to call it a diagram, right? All right, Roger. Sorry, didn't mean to.
Thank you, thanks, Ken. Well,
Okay.
I'll come back to that question, but the first question I have is, how far along are the interior designs? Are the facsimiles that we're seeing here representative of what may or may not happen? Or have the interior designers actually begun to suggest that the types of furniture and the locations are not just placeholders, but beginning to be part of the design? How far along are you in the interiors?
The furniture interior design is really at the very, very beginning.
Okay.
These are, for the furniture themselves, these are all just placeholders.
Mhm.
And some of these images are probably, even if we were to say, where are we today, I would say that some of these images probably don't even, the chairs we know actually probably wouldn't be picked, right? But where we are in our design, we actually are, we have a whole bunch of the materials of the surfaces are probably, we're almost at 90%. In a month, we'll be at 90% complete, including all of those surfaces. So what's on the floor, what's on the ceiling, what's on the walls,
Okay.
we're going to be done with those.
Sure.
Furniture, we have barely even started.
Okay, thanks. And
Uh,
my second comment is addressing what Sam just said, because and I guess I'm biased because I'm an architect, but I think that the honesty of the concrete columns, in contrast to the softening devices that you see, and the art that is now being designed to fill that space, which hasn't been decided yet, will mitigate and make it a softer, more interesting, large space. But the concrete, from my point of view at least, and I think Ken defined it perfectly, is that is symbolic of what the structure is, the strength of the building. And I would hate to disguise or eliminate or alter what that statement is in contrast to the softness of the furniture and the art and the wood that they've introduced. That's just my opinion, but thanks.
Louise, before we go to your question, I'm just going to go over the order that we're going to answer questions.
And I have to apologize. I threw you guys for
It's
a loop
okay.
and said, hey, let's open for questions now before we get into the sustainability piece. But
It's okay. So we're going to start. Christy has the left side of the room. I will be in this middle section. Eli will be over here on the right side of the room. And Christy is out in the fireside lounge. Risa is out in the fireside lounge taking questions. So Christy's side.
Okay, my question is, I've been here 12 years and there's been sounds from the waterfall. Is that anything that we are looking forward to, or is that going to not be part of?
you're talking about the fountain in Pickett Corridor.
I am in Pickett
Right.
Corridor. Is that part of our
It's,
future?
it's not part of our work
Right?
because it's actually owned by the parks and it's up to them to run it. I understand that they,
Well, I've been told as recently as last week that the Parks Department will have it fixed and running before the end of July. However, I think I heard that in 2024 also. But I have heard it as recently as last week or 2 weeks ago that this time somebody's really going to get after it. So, it will not be me, no. Yes, okay, so the,
Okay, my question.
oh, yes, Anne Marie.
You have a labyrinth that is right outside of the dining room, in full view of the dining room. I always think of the labyrinth as being something very contemplative, and I have the feeling that that would be better off in a more quiet, secluded spot than right under the vision of everybody having dinner.
Yeah.
okay, that's a good point.
No, we did discuss this previously. Unfortunately, that's the only location that can have that type of uninterrupted labyrinth placed. Everything else throughout the project is more of a pathway. We've been working with Linda Purdy on it, and so I mean, your point's well taken, but we also thought that it's better to have a labyrinth somewhere than nowhere at all. Okay, so
Eli?
this on the left is
Bill had a question.
I don't see any people on walkers. Is all of this area going to be accessible to those who are on walkers?
Yes. In fact, that's one, yeah, both for wheelchair and walkers. All of
Okay.
the new terraces will be accessible.
You might want to put one or two in these pictures sometime so
That is a
people
good
know
point.
that that's okay. The second thing I have is, do you have somebody lined up to do the washing of all the glass? There's an awful lot of windows in this design, and somebody's got to clean them.
Luckily, as an architect, I don't actually have to hire the window washers.
Who does?
That's me. Okay, so
Eli-
yes,
Eli does.
yes.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation. There will be more windows than ever before, and we've included that as part of our operating operations plan moving forward. But
And
yes,
and we've designed the tower system to allow for the window washing system. So we have
so that the window washers, at least on the West Tower, will be safer than they've ever been on our campus ever before.
Risa in the fireside lounge.
Do you have knowledge now of how many elevators will serve the 33rd floor?
Yes, 4.
There
How
will
many
be-
elevators will serve the 33rd floor? And the answer is 4.
Christy?
Have we considered tinting the concrete? Yeah, you could, I know a lot of construction,
Yeah, we did talk about it, but
Yep.
we chose to keep it the neutral, right? Mhm.
Okay.
Sorry.
The question was, have you considered tinting the concrete? Tinting.
Like maybe with a less cloudy color? And the answer was no.
We're keeping it the natural
keeping it
gray.
a
Mhm.
natural concrete color.
Do we have any? Okay. Nancy?
Two questions. You met right over here.
Oh, sorry.
You mentioned glazed tile.
Yes.
Is that slippery when wet?
It's on the wall.
Oh, okay. So if I'm climbing the walls,
True.
I'm having a bad day and I'm climbing the walls, this is a problem.
Right.
Okay, good
It'll
to know.
also, it also keep the people you don't want climbing your walls off your building as well. Yes.
Okay, second question. What are going to be the sizes of the trees that are brought in? How high, tall will they be?
The new trees that we're
New
bringing
trees,
in.
yeah.
Height probably 12 feet is my guess. No, that would probably be the tallest that we would get. And it totally depends on which trees we're talking about, which species. And I think the biggest ones that we're bringing in, I think the caliper we were talking about is a 3 or 4 inch caliper for that type of tree. A deciduous, I believe, is that one.
There was an option of, do we pay the extra money to get much more mature trees here? And in fact, we put it in front of the residents, the biophilic design advisory group. Some of them are here today, and we asked, that there would be a trade-off. Would you rather us spend our money on more mature plants, and I can't remember what the other option was, but the majority, everybody just said, no, we would rather that other thing. I just can't remember what that other thing is. But the point is that when the project finishes, they won't be the scrawniest plants, but it'll look like plants that you would typically see in a construction project that just finished.
It's
Not quite.
It's the rest of the plants, Eli, right? So to pay
Right.
for the bigger trees, you have to maybe take some of the other plants out. So you go smaller on the
smaller.
on the other plants,
Mhm.
right? So less the understory would be less mature looking to do that, to get the more mature trees.
That makes sense. Anybody from this left side of the room? No?
We can.
Okay,
Fireside
Risa in the
lounge?
Fireside Lounge.
No.
Okay.
Christy.
We'll move on to sustainability then.
Right, yes. So we do have a second
Oh,
topic here.
Judy had
Sorry,
one.
Judy has a question. Okay.
The first question has to do with the new auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be a stage that will raise the performances high enough so that the people in the back can see them?
Our drawings currently show a stage. Yes.
Good.
Yep.
Another.
Retractable, so the stage can go away too.
Sure.
Right.
And that'll be shown in greater detail when we give that presentation in November.
Okay. Number 2. You have some wood slats showing on the exterior, and I'm just wondering what sort of finish you propose to put on them so that they will retain their nice natural wood appearance.
That is probably remains to be seen exactly what the finish is going to be. We've been exploring actually using naturally, there's a product called Thermery. That's a treated lumber that has it could basically gray out, which is what I'm hearing from you. You want to keep that natural color, so then you actually have to continually go back and apply an oil to it, or that particular product would have to require an oiling, right? If we want to keep that wood color, we may actually consider doing a different treatment to the wood rather than that particular treatment, but it would still require reapplication of that treatment.
Okay.
I think what you're talking about is the entry piece that we have the wood slat screen, I think was the main place where we're showing wood on the outside.
Well, just as long as we know that we may not be getting a long-term natural wood
Right.
appearance.
Yeah, it's not unlike, if you let cedar gray out, you still get the wood texture and all of that. It just changes color over time, right? It would be a little bit like that.
My final question, I'm on the the east section of the center tower.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to not only lose my view, which I can handle, but I'm going to be looking directly into the living space of the people in the new West Tower. How are we going to handle that?
You're talking about, okay, remind me, which one is E? I'm trying to remember.
I'm sorry. I'm looking west,
You're looking west.
directly at the new tower.
From a like a D or E apartment.
That's-
Judy, which stack are you in?
E.
E.
Uh-huh.
So on the right. Yeah. So facing into
Southwest corner or northwest corner?
it's the northwest corner of the west leg of the central tower. So it'll be looking right across from like the Koas.
Got it, okay.
Right. Or I'm sorry, the junipers. Right across
Right.
from the junipers. 43 feet away from the juniper. Right. Is
Right.
where Judy's apartment is.
Right,
Okay. But in short, we hope to ensure some privacy through a combination of lighting design as well as very select roller shade
Mhm.
opacities. Find that perfect combination where residents in both buildings are able to kind of see out, but that it's difficult to see from the outside past toward into their apartments, and it's something that we're still working on.
We're definitely working on it.
Right.
And with blackout shades in the bedrooms, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like for the bedrooms, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay. Two more, sure.
What will happen to the balconies outside the terrace dining room? Are they going to disappear?
The
Does it look-
balconies are going to remain.
So we'll have
So
those
the-
flowers.
Those flowers will stay there.
So you don't really see down from there, from the dining room.
Right, because
I'm
of
fairly
that,
tall.
you won't see down.
You won't
So-
see that.
The
The
labyrinth.
labyrinth?
You'd have to be very tall to
Oh, I see
see
what you're
over
saying.
that. Yeah. No,
If you see the image on the bottom here, those, unfortunately, they're not rendered as glass, but the behind the man in the blue shirt, those are the windows to the dining room right there. And the hydrangeas right behind him. So the level of the labyrinth is exactly the same floor level as the dining room.
You mentioned that the trees that you would be planting in would be something like caliber of 3. Does that mean 3 inches at
3 inches in
diameter,
diameter.
breast height?
Correct, yeah.
And so are we not going to be able to save any of the trees that are now in our
Unfortunately, no.
patios?
No. We actually did a study to look at that to see if we could actually either transplant the trees to a new home or save them somehow. We'd have to basically keep them for 4 years before bringing them back. And neither one of those options were really viable. We thought we could actually give them to the park and have them plant them, but they didn't want them.
Shall we move on to the
Okay.
sustainability section?
And I'm sorry we interrupted. I threw you guys for that loop there. I wasn't thinking. So, sustainable design, a little bit more nerdy because it's quantitative. but I'm going to try to keep it a little less nerdy. So, sustainability, that quantitative. So, our core principles of sustainable design include environmental responsibility, social equity, and economic viability. We believe at Mithun that we can't achieve sustainability goals if we can't make it economically viable, or else nobody will want to pay for it. So we actually really challenge ourselves to make sure that we choose materials, choose systems that actually can be built so that we actually achieve the goals that we want. We're also paying a lot of attention to social equity in terms of making sure that everybody has equal access to all of these things and equal access to the benefits of those things, but also even the workers themselves, the people making the materials in the factories, or even the people working on the building itself, that we're not putting them in danger of harmful chemicals or unsafe practices. So we measure, there's many different measuring tools out there for sustainability. The most common one is LEED, which is Leadership in Environment in Energy and Environmental Design. This has been around for years. We're on version 4 of it, I believe, and they have 7 main categories that we analyze, having to do with sustainable sites, water efficiency, energy and atmosphere, materials and resources, indoor environmental quality, and innovation and design. And there's a whole bunch of subcategories under each one of those, and you kind of pick and choose the pieces that you want to try to achieve, and you get a point for all the different things that you achieve. And there's basically it's a 100-point system, and our goal is to get a LEED Gold. And to get LEED Gold, you need to be somewhere between 60 and 79 points, and right now we're targeting 66 points, on the verge of being 65 as I speak. But we're in fairly good position to maintain our LEED Gold status. And I'm going to share with you a couple of the items that we're looking at that's getting us towards that goal. We won't know that we achieve the goal until after construction is done, because part of the assessment is during design, making sure that we're designing things the right way, choosing materials the correct way. But then the proof is in the pudding. We have to build the thing and actually prove that we actually use those exact materials, that we did the right things when we're recycling the waste from construction, for instance, and making sure it's actually getting in the right refuse cycles. So we applied 7 different strategies towards getting these points, and I'm only going to share a couple of these with you. But when we're looking at all of these things, we're considering the life cycle of the materials, the building itself. Again, we're trying to enhance the indoor environmental quality, which is super important to a residential project, and the fact that you are living in this space and living in your apartments 24/7. Just like biophilic design, the integration of nature and environment, so there is synergy between these things. They just have a more measurable way to apply it. So for instance, access to daylight, there's a formula that we have to actually prove that the amount of daylight that actually is penetrating into the building. Minimizing waste and pollution, both in terms of, like I said, during construction, as well as what happens after the occupation of the building. Promoting durability and longevity, and optimizing resource uses. That's actually both energy efficiency and material efficiencies. And as always, the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. So I'm only going to talk about a couple of these items, about how it's being applied on the West Tower project. I'm going to start with optimizing our resource use. Energy efficiency. The new tower is going to be all electric. So we're going away from fossil fuels. The new project will eliminate fossil fuel use for that project. It'll be all electric. It's going to be a highly efficient air-to-air heat pump system that then supplies hydronic pipe to each apartment that has a heat pump inside of it, so that it'll give you highly efficient heating and cooling in the apartments. And each apartment also has their own dedicated outside air exhaust system that's fully filtered. So, and again, super efficient system. We're lucky in that we live in a state and a city that's actually been a forefront of energy codes that are super efficient. So it's actually really easy for us to get the lead points that they say, hey, you need to be better than ASHRAE 60 by this much, by 30% or 20%, and we almost always get really good scores just by having a project in Seattle. So, but we're pushing the envelope in terms of trying to reduce our carbon footprint by getting off of fossil fuels. Water conservation is another one, especially in a residential project. Everybody has a shower and a toilet and a sink and a dishwasher. All of them are energy efficient or water resource efficient. So, and it's a delicate balance, I know, of making sure that you have low flow fixtures, but not low enough where your shower sucks, right? So we really try to pay attention that we're picking the correct ones, because if you just go to Home Depot and buy those low flow fixtures, sometimes you put that in there, you just go, nope, gotta go get another one. We're trying to pay attention to we're picking the right ones. And then, of course, material selection, making sure that we're, again, the environmental impact, not just of the material itself, recycled content, but also that equity thing I was talking about, making sure we're picking materials that aren't harmful to the people who are producing those materials and or systems. Whoops. Okay, the bulb is, okay, full disclosure. I was really struggling trying to figure out what a sexy image would be for energy efficiency. Right? We had an image of a really cool rooftop mechanical unit, and it's like, well, that's not very sexy. So we found this image of a plant growing inside a light bulb and thought that was kind of cool, maybe. It's theoretical. That's not real. It's just to evoke an image of something that's environmentally friendly, right? Yeah. I'm always going to be on the search for a sexy HVAC thing. I've yet to find one. You caught me. You totally caught me. Okay, promoting durability and longevity. We know that this building is going to be here for a long time, as in the buildings we're in right now. The Central Tower was built in 54, so it's been there for a long time. So we're paying attention to the same thing. We're trying to make sure that, especially on these exterior materials, and Judy, you did point out that we had that one little thing of wood right there that we had, but most of the materials we're using on the exterior will last a very, very long time. What makes that super environmental is that you don't have to replace it, right? And also, in terms of durability, if you can find materials where you don't actually have to go back and recoat, restain, repaint, you're also saving in resources by not having to do that over and over again. So the tower itself is going to be something that's going to, the glass, the metal siding and all that stuff is not something that's going to have to be redone in a very, very long time. So that's a very sustainable thing. And then designing for disassembly. And I have a picture here of a kitchen. The kitchens, we know, again, the building's going to be standing there for a long time, but things do get worn out when you live in them, day in and day out, and so they will have to be replaced. So we're paying attention to that as well, making sure that the kitchens can be easily remodeled. In fact, we were talking with the, Eli and I were talking with the kitchen cabinet provider that we're talking to, and they already are talking about saying, hey, we can actually produce new doors for you guys, like in a heartbeat, if you have a door damage, and we'll know exactly what model number it is and everything, and you guys can just replace a door rather than have to go back and remodel and do the whole kitchen. You can just replace the door. And here's the glazed tile that also will last a long time and also is not climbable. Another thing I think is near and dear to our heart is making sure the indoor environmental quality, air quality is really good. And that's all about not to mention the non-sexy mechanical systems. The outdoor air is important, super important for that, as well as every apartment will also have operable windows so that you actually can get fresh air if you want. But also the materials that we select themselves, making sure that none of the materials have the formaldehydes or VOCs, and and so we're making sure that all of the materials are I was going to say not on the red list, but that's not what we're following. That's a different system. I apologize. But basically, they're not harmful off-gassing, or either during construction or even after the fact. And then, of course, we talked about the natural light in the views, which we have in spades in this project. So, and I'm going to open it up for questions again. This time about sustainability.
Is this working? What is the floor-to-floor height in some of these units? They look, in some of the images that you show of the interiors, the ceiling heights appear to be very high. Are those in the penthouse unit?
Yes, they are the penthouse units. I picked the penthouse units for
Thank you.
Yeah.
Risa in the Fireside Lounge.
Anybody have a question out here? I'm coming.
Question about the trees, going back because we moved. If we're talking about sustainability, how much of our sustainability do we knock off if we end up destroying the trees instead of moving them somewhere? They may not want them in the park. Greenway.
Yeah,
Can you repeat that?
So the question was, well, aren't we compromising sustainability if we're throwing away oxygen-giving trees? These trees give us oxygen, and we're just going to throw them away. How much is this project, hurting, I guess, the environment?
That's a really good question because, seriously, as human beings, just living here is hurting the environment, right? So it's actually the measure of how much harm are you doing. And that's why it's sustainability. We're using it's a quantitative measure. There's no doubt that there is impact, right? And we're just trying to make sure that we're lowering that impact, right?
I think I have an answer to that. If you're talking about the trees that are down and the various gardening levels, they were planted knowing that they had a life expectancy. At this point, strangely enough, they're about done. They're root bound, and it's hard for them to continue to live in a good way. So it would have been time to change those trees anyway. So I don't think we should worry about those particular trees.
Good comment.
That's great. I didn't know that, Anne Marie. That's really good.
And incidentally, we did put a lot of effort. We got bids on what would it cost and what would be the method of craning off some of these significant ornamental trees and, you know, relocating them, and it's much more affordable to buy a very mature tree than it takes to crane off a tree, plant it, and then bring it back. But it's an expensive cost regardless.
Oh, yes. I thought I saw a contradictory two pictures. The one, and both pictures were of the space that was built between the West Tower as it is and the new West Tower, which is going to be 40 feet, I guess, away from the current west perimeter wing, west wing.
So you're talking about the image on the upper left?
No,
No?
no, I'm talking about the first level, the ground level. It's a picture of the ground level
I think
that is going
it's
to be.
the front entry.
Oh,
The rendering of the front entry.
the very first.
Anyway, one had a door and the other one doesn't. And I thought, I'd like to know, yeah, that's
This
it,
one?
that's it. That's a door showing people standing in front of it.
Correct.
There was no door in the other one that I saw, and I just
The
wondered.
same exact view?
Yeah, yep.
Oh. How did we get rid of the door? That's an important door because that's actually the emergency exit out of the building. The fire department would not be happy.
Okay.
This one.
I'll get you next.
I see a door there. Okay. I see a door there. Upper left? I didn't. Could, okay. I'll double check our actual documents and make sure the door stays there, yes.
Wait, not yet, Eli. Christy has it.
I don't have an answer this time. I have a question.
Okay.
In the apartment pictures, and this probably, maybe is a silly question, I don't see windowsills. You know, an awful lot of people like to have plants in their apartments.
Ah,
And
yes.
it would be nice to have windowsills to put them on. Granted, you can put a big flower, a big pot on the floor, but that's difficult to care for. But lots of us have little plants
Right.
that are good for the environment and us. And it seems a shame not to have a place to put them.
Yeah, I think it's a little deceiving in that most of the spaces will have a windowsill at 2 feet. This image that you're seeing here to the right of the dining room table, you see that the glass is actually going down to the floor. So we actually have in a couple of spots. So the majority of the windows are up high at 2 feet. And then we have a few spots where we drop the glass down at some special, mostly it's in the corners. So you see the image to the right, there's the glass goes all the way down, and that's at the corner. So you're trying to maximize that view and that cool prospect idea. So we do have windowsills at 2 feet. I just can't remember how deep they are. Enough for a small pot, probably, though.
Carol?
This is a question about interior colors, and perhaps it's not set yet, but it looks in these examples as if you're picking up what you've showed us from previous interiors. And if so, wonderful, because you're going away from the all gray. And that delights me, and I like these. However, currently when somebody buys an apartment at Horizon House, they can select their own wall paint, floor covering, etc. So this is a policy decision going on, but how do you see this? Because your image of the building is a cohesive one with natural colors and applied colors like rugs and paint.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the status?
So when we're talking about the amenity spaces, the spaces that everybody enjoys, all of those, the material palette that you saw in general, like the one in the upper left here, is going to be constant throughout. And it's actually, we're trying to, in fact, some of the colors we're using, and even some of the materials that we'll be using are already materials that are being used on current renovation projects, so that there's some continuity within the entire community, right? The apartments, yes, residents, when they purchase, will get to choose, but there are palettes they're choosing from. So there's still going to be some whites and some grays and some warm tones, but generally there's going to be palettes that are a little bit interchangeable, but a little bit more cohesive, I guess would be the right way to put it.
And each resident, each new resident will have their moment of going through selections one-on-one with somebody on the sales team. Yes.
Risa, do you have any questions in the Fireside Lounge? Christy?
So right there next to the fantastic bulb with a flower in it is the 7 or so vertical wood pieces. They look like an organ pipe. So what are they? Is that a heating device?
That's a really good question. That is actually a sample of a wood slat ceiling panel. So it's just a small portion.
We're underneath it, looking up.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not a wall piece.
We are using something similar to that as a wall piece on in the garden lounge, where it will come down the wall as well. I'll see if I can find that image really quickly. The image on the bottom left here, you can see a little portion of it to the right, on the upper right in that image. Right up here.
Okay.
And actually, coincidentally, behind that slat is actually some glass where people can look through the slats and still see the park.
Okay, thank you.
Do windows have UV protection, and how do they open? How far?
4 inches is the answer to the second question.
Okay.
They have to have limiters on them because you're way up in the air. They're all casement windows, so they're the crank style. That's how they open. And they do have UV. I just don't remember exactly what the number is, but I can find out and let
That
Eli
would be
know.
important for the art, certainly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Right.
Anybody from this left section? Yep, Bill?
I'll get you on the next one. Okay.
Does the concept of sustainability extend to earthquake protection, or is that another lecture?
You got an hour? We did a presentation about a month and a half ago on earthquake protection, which I think was recorded, right, Lauren? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
it is.
I
a
think it's
sigh
on
of
YouTube.
relief. That was the review we just got on the earthquake presentation. A sigh.
Oh, what
of
was the
relief.
review?
A sigh of relief.
Oh, a sigh of relief.
Yes.
Okay. So the Fireside Lounge. Anybody in the Fireside Lounge?
No.
Okay.
We won't miss you, Sam. We won't miss you.
Dick's next, and then Sam.
I wanted to ask about what looks like grass and the decision to have grass related to water conservation.
That is not grass. It's artificial grass.
but it's guaranteed to feel better than any fake grass you've ever felt before in your life.
Water conservation hates grass. I agree. Yes, you can.
Anybody from this side? No. Fireside Lounge?
No. Christy?
This is a sustainability question. The people who make cement and concrete are not far behind coal-fired power plants in terms of CO2 emissions. The concrete industry has taken big steps toward solving that problem, and I know that one of them is to collect the CO2 as it's generated and then re-inject it into the mix and basically sequester it that way for all time as the concrete cures. So the question is, are we taking the time to investigate our concrete sources, and can we be sure it will be used in this project?
We have been investigating things like that. Oh my God.
CO2 sequestration.
Correct, thank you.
Yes. Carbon sequestration in concrete.
And we have been exploring options. Part of, and actually, again, we're lucky in that here in Pacific Northwest, the concrete suppliers here have actually been, are actually a little bit further ahead than other places in the country as far as doing that. So just by default, we actually get slightly better concrete because of the additives that they use, or but the full sequestering system, the issue that, from what I understand, the structural engineer, there's some issues with the cure time and how long you have to wait. And so the challenge is when you're building a tower, you have to wait to actually keep going up the next lifts. So it actually changes the whole scheduling of how it works. So, and then the other thing I understand is that the workability of that mix, even though it's actually will end up being strong enough, it's also it's a very different workability, and so it also is it's very challenging. So we're at the forefront of that technology, and I don't think some of the contractors and or engineers that are out there are quite ready to do that leap of faith and do it for the full structure of a tower. It's coming, but I don't think for this tower it's ready yet. Sam is finally, it's come on, he's been waiting
Okay, all right, okay.
Thank you. The only difficult area I had has to do with the main entrance to the building. If you could put that slide on the two people coming out of the door.
Yeah, and to be clear, it's not the main entrance. It's the code-required egress. The main entrance will always be the east tower lobby.
So we made it look too much like a main entrance is what I'm hearing. Yeah.
So Sam is saying that it looks too good for it to just be an emergency exit.
Well, he was saying about the incongruity of the design of the wood slats that
okay.
are coming over. Yeah, I think our image here, how do I put this? I don't want to blame somebody, but sometimes our renderers take creative license. And yeah, kind of. They didn't quite get that exactly right, and actually even since we gave them the drawings, we've actually redrawn it yet again. But our idea was that it was actually supposed to be a continuation of that screen wall. The slats were supposed to come up and over, kind of thing, so that they were tied together. I think you're right in that. The way that looks, it's not quite right. Yeah, I think you're right.
Anybody? Yeah.
Looking at that slide again, could you identify for me what the dark structure is right above that entrance?
Oh. That is a roof parapet that is actually, it's glass, and it's opaque because the roof of that floor level is behind that. So it's just this time of day in this image, you're seeing the glowing light from the inside, and it's just sort of turning dark. Different time of day, that glass would reflect just like all the rest of the glass, and it would sort of disappear and look the same. So different times of day, it's going to look different. But
Christy?
now it's hiding the roof. Yeah.
Is there parking in the west tower?
Yes.
Where have we seen any of it? Or where is it?
It's hidden under the terraces. Actually, let me go.
And will the
you.
whole building open at one time, or is there going to be some sequential openings?
Oh, it is going to open at the same time, because basically the city and the fire department basically have to give us thumbs up before we can occupy, so then the whole thing. So in this image here, you see, we were showing you the terraces and everything, and then you see there's nondescript little layers of cake underneath there. That's the parking garage that's below.
On this picture here, where is the emergency? The picture we're seeing that we think looks, it's totally on the other side of
Correct.
the building.
Correct.
Okay, and it's kind of near that wall that takes you down the ramps that take you down
Bigger
to
corridor,
the park.
exactly. So right at the corner of University and 9th.
9.
So again, I'll go back to that picture because the one thing that's in this picture, in this one,
Yeah.
the garage entry is just to the right. The university garage entry is just to the right. So this will be just to the left. Right now, that retaining wall just sort of continues all the way over. We're actually asking to cut that and then create a walkway to the building.
In the other picture of the current dining room, I can see the area where the plants are. Then there's a partition, some kind of a wall. Can you tell me what material is going to be used for that?
Yeah, we're not changing anything on the wall. And I'm going to try to find that image for you. Some of these are slow. Was this the one with the man in the blue shirt? Oops. This one? No?
No.
No?
It actually, you can actually see the west part, west face or north facing. There. We'll go back. Right there. So what is that wall between the glass and the flowers? That.
This wall here? Or
No,
this
no.
wall here?
Yes.
Oh, that is the current wall right now. That's a railing system, and below it is concrete. So that's the...
It just looks very high on that particular picture.
I agree, right. So
I think it's the...
Right, so the top of this wall is actually like 6 feet lower than the, or
Correct.
maybe even lower than that wall. It's an optical illusion from this image.
Yeah, and I think those hydrangeas probably are a little bit bigger than, they look a little bit bigger than they are in reality too, don't they? But our intent is that that wall, that railing height wall, we're not changing that at all. And the face of that wall, we're not changing that either, except I think just giving it some fresh paint.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah,
Right.
and those are the existing
Right.
windows.
The question,
Those are
right.
the existing windows of the dining
The
room.
question
Again,
is
not-
these windows are, yes, these windows are the windows of the dining room. Okay.
I
Right.
use the
Anyways.
mouse right here.
Yeah.
These are the existing windows of the dining room. And those are the hydrangeas just outside those. All of that exists, and we're not changing them.
John?
So back to the front entrance picture?
Oh, it's our favorite shot. I like it.
With the garage on the right? That is the garage entrance on the right?
Correct.
I presume?
The university garage entrance.
How much will the garage function during construction, and how much will it be closed down, et cetera? And when will it reappear?
So I think if Anderson Construction were here, they would be able to answer that a little bit better. But we are keeping the central tower portion of the parking garage open during construction. However, the central tower portion of the parking garage only, I believe, constitutes one third of the total parking that people typically use this university garage entrance for. So all of the west wing destination portion of the garage will obviously be eliminated, so it'll have much less of a capacity.
So where is that going to come from, or where will they be entering? From down below?
You mean eventually when the project is complete? When the project's complete, we'll reopen so that it connects over to the new West Tower. And in fact, you'll be able to, unlike today, when the West Tower is complete, you'll be able to drive into the university garage entrance and go all the way down and exit out near the loading dock. That's something that we can't do today because of the way it was originally
Right. The new
constructed.
garage interconnects all levels.
All levels, right.
But the university garage door will always be functioning and available to get in and out every single day. It's not going to be
That's correct.
closed down.
Yes.
Only during momentary
When we need to have
lapses
it
when we
closed.
have to have access for construction. So like if you saw the logistics presentation, when they have to put up the tower crane, for instance, on a weekend, they're going to need that space.
But for the most part, it'll be
We have another question over here. Fred.
One plus maybe. Oh.
Do you have a image of the two towers in color, or whatever color you call that shading that you're doing there? I want to see them together. There's a central tower and the horizon house.
So I think Fred's asking, can you show us the maybe the axonometric?
I think
or
this is the
that
closest one I
Sure.
think we
Oh, in
have that
color.
shows all the
In color.
towers.
So obviously the one that's big in front, that's 33 stories, that's the New West Tower, and then in the background,
This is
19 stories, that's the Central Tower,
And
and then
then-
to the left, that's the North Tower.
correct.
It's in the shade. It's in the shadow of the, in this image, at this time of the day, it would be in the shadow. Was there another question in the Fireside Lounge?
No questions in the Fireside
Yes,
Lounge.
Thank you very much,
yes,
everybody.
Thank you.
Maybe it's my memory, but I don't remember seeing a picture of the dining room. Is it going to be bigger?
The current dining room, that's not part of the West Tower project, although we're working on it as a separate project.